on my hand,
Yeah.
and they live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, so
Yeah.
they were. And on December 7th, 1941, I came out of the Knickerbocker Theater in 42nd Street in New York and came out at Times Square, and there was a crowd around the New York Times building, and they have lights that give you the news, and that's where I saw, and everybody there, that Pearl Harbor was bombed. It was Sunday, and it was bombed. And so Monday morning, the recruiting stations had lines. Every man and woman was so angered about what happened. And my generation, we saw the rape of Nanking when the Japanese invaded China. We saw this and read about the Spanish Civil War, where Hitler and Mussolini aided Franco. We saw and heard the atrocities that Hitler was doing through his political group. I mean, we saw all of these things. We saw the Blitz. And so when Japan did what they did, we became an angry America. We really did. I was 16, I was standing in the recruiting line, ready to enlist. And I had to go. My grandparents came from Italy. They told me what a great country we had. They told me why they left. And I was instilled with a patriotic air and also with respect and gratitude. And my two uncles fought in World War I, one in the Navy, one in the Army. So we had a patriotic bringing up. Memorial Days back in 32, 33 were very meaningful. 35, 36. At exactly 11 o'clock on November the 11th in Jersey City and in New York City, everything stopped. Buses, trains, and church bells pealed. And ships tooted in the harbor. And the conductor got off a train and played taps. So I had to enlist. And I enlisted in the Navy. It was a minority cruise, and I served from 1943 until my 21st birthday. I was discharged, and I remained 3 more years in the reserves. And then when my enlistment came up, I enlisted in the active Army Reserve. I was trying for a West Point appointment, and I was over age, but my company commander encouraged me to go to the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. And I got my degree in '54 in history. And all that time I served in active reserve units. I was on active duty in Fort Drum when the North Koreans crossed the 38th parallel on June the 23rd of 1950. And we were training then with the 3rd Division, which is a very famous Audie Murphy's division. And we all thought we were going to be leaving for Korea. But we were able to continue. I was able to continue my education, and then I would go on active duty during the summer. I didn't serve at all overseas in Korea or Vietnam, but I served through those wars as well. I did training, and I trained troops at Fort Drum and at Charleston, South Carolina, and at Fort Bragg. The thing is that I have noticed as a result of what happened during the Vietnam War, there are people now coming up. Those veterans had to wait a long time before they got their recognition on a wall, and their wall is the most visited historical spot in Washington, D.C. Every day they collect all the mementos that have been left, and they catalog it, and it's in the warehouse. And so the Vietnam veterans are getting the thanks and the gratefulness that they should have gotten when they came home. And so now I've had 8, 9-year-old children, high school students, come up, thank you for your service. Thank you for coming. And so my generation has been called the greatest generation. And we had a writer that wrote the story. But from what I've seen as a result of being with the Worcesters, that this present generation I call the grateful generation. The children do come up. That Arlington veterans are hugging veterans. Hey, I served in that unit. Hey, I served aboard that ship. There's an atmosphere of gratitude. And the Worcester family compounded it.